SQL or SQL tuning is the process of optimizing database queries to reduce execution times, minimize server resource consumption, and prevent system bottlenecks. There are two ways we can achieve this: by benchmarking, and the second is by profiling. To benchmark is simply to simulate a high load situation, and to profile is simply to track performance issues. At the end, I'm going to share with you tools that can help us to benchmark and also to profile. When you benchmark and profile, it can point you to a number of optimization. I'm going to go through each of these optimizations one at a time. The first optimization is that use car instead of var car. Now I know people pronounce this differently. You may pronounce this other one as cha, or you may pronounce the other text as va cha. Either way, I think it's still okay. You may hear me interchange between them. Please don't blame me. So use car instead of va car. Why would you do this? It is because if you have a fixed length field, car is effective in that it allows for fast random access. But on the other hand, var car, you must find the end of a string before you move on to the next one. Then the other optimization is, whenever you can, ensure that you use text for large blocks of text. Car, var, car, and text are simply keywords in SQL or SQL. If you don't know these, you may have to look up the documentation of SQL to study it. It's not very complex. You can learn and master the basics even in a week. Now, why should we use text for large blocks? And first of all, what would be an example of a large block of text? A good example would be a blog post. If you're dealing with blog posts, text allows you to have Boolean searches, but also on top of that, a text field results in storing a pointer on the disk. Pointers are very good. They enable us to have instant access when we want to locate a text block. The next keyword you should consider is using int. Use int for large numbers up to 2 to the power 32, which is approximately equal to 4 billion. Then once you need to deal with money, use the decimal keyword for currency. This will help you to avoid floating point representation errors. I'm sure if you've dealt with money, you've faced this. Then avoid storing large blobs. I'm begging you, stop. Trust me, I've learned this the hard way, and you do not want to go into this. If you want to work with blobs, simply store that object somewhere else in object storage. And then in your database, you can store the location of where to get that object instead. Also, use and set the not null constraint where applicable. I'm going to share with you a very good Stack Overflow post, which will explain to you why this can help you. I know you're now screaming, why Stack Overflow? But trust me, it's old school, but read it and you're going to benefit from it. Then, when we talk about indices and you're querying particular columns, what do we mean querying? In SQL, you can use certain statements like the select statement. You can use another statement like the group by statement. You can use joins. You can use order by. All these are statements that we use when we're trying to query. And usually when you're querying, of course, you specify the columns. This can be faster when you use indices or an index. Please consider using indices, but be very careful, of course, when you're using indices, because sometimes when you have so many writes, okay, you may find that writes can actually be slower. Why? Because the index also needs to be updated. So always think about the trade-offs. Do we have so many writes or many reads? In which situation do we have reads, or in which situation do we have most writes? Is it balanced? Think about it always. Now, the next thing is this. Sometimes you actually want to disable these indices. Yes, because sometimes when you're loading large amounts of data, it might be faster to disable the indices, load the data, then after that, rebuild the indices. In the previous video, I talked about denormalization. It's a very good technique. Where performance demands denormalization, please avoid expensive joins. Implement denormalization. If this is new to you, check the playlist. You're going to see a video on this. Then, where necessary, also make sure you break up your tables by putting hotspots in a separate table to help keep it in memory. And accessing stuff from memory will be very, very efficient for you. And then in some cases, you might want to tune your query cache so that you try to avoid performance issues that come around with cache invalidation and generally helping yourself to improve the reading performance, so having very good efficiency when it comes to reading from your cache. This is one of the videos in a series where I'm sharing knowledge on system design. Subscribe, share, and I'll see you in the next video or live stream.